Hello there and welcome back to the Satanist podcast. Today I have a very special guest, James Hattersley, the Executive Director of We the Free, to tell us a little bit about the community of activists that he's built alongside his colleagues. Before we jump into the big questions, let's talk about what We the Free actually is. I see a lot of activists wearing WTF on their shirts. I was like, what is this? It gets your intrigue, So tell us, what is We the Free?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So We the Free is a vegan animal rights organization. We specialize in street activism and online activism. And we picked the name We the Free because we, the free people, have a moral responsibility to speak up on behalf of the animals that have had their freedom unjustly stolen from them. And also, you mentioned the WTF. We really like the acronym because, WTF, or what the F, is most people's natural response the first time they see what happens to animals in farms and slaughterhouses, the first time they see where our food actually comes from, right?
Absolutely true. And there are a lot of animal rights organizations out there. So what is it exactly that sets We the Free apart from those?
Yeah, so basically a couple of years ago, our team did a animal rights survey, and this survey was the largest animal rights activist survey that I'm aware of that's ever happened. There was 1,100 people that took part in that. Now, some of them were like volunteers, some of them were like organizers that organize events, some of them were, leaders of organizations. So a real varied mix from all around the world. And what that survey told us was some really common themes, like problems that people were having within the animal rights movement. So, for instance, a third of people told us that they were actually leaving animal rights activism or reducing their activism. And when we asked them why, the reasons were kind of burnout, toxic communication and infighting, or a perceived lack of making a meaningful impact in actually helping the animals. So they were kind of feeling like they weren't seeing the changes that they wanted to or quick enough, and they didn't know how effective it was. So maybe they kind of became demotivated and lost interest. There was also issues around a lack of faith in leadership in the movement, not receiving training people wanted needed to receive. So basically, we built a community or an organization to target those problems. And there's three main things that's different from any other organization based on that strategy that we built because of the survey. So they are community, learning development, and kind of knowing our impact with a data and analytics platform that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more later on. But they're the three main things that are different about We the Free.
Okay, yeah, you brought up a lot of good points there. So let's talk about this training. I saw on your website you can book yourself in for a Zoom class, a Zoom meeting, something like that.
Yeah. So basically, if it's okay, first I'll just talk about why the training is so important.
Yeah, sure.
Because some people might think, we don't need training. We just go out into the street or we go on the internet and talk about what happens to animals, and that should be enough. The problem is it's obviously not enough because lots of people are saying that they don't receive the training they need, or they don't feel confident talking to people, or they leave activism, presumably because of not receiving that training. And also, if you can just imagine, we are a movement that's made up almost exclusively of people who we knowingly expose ourselves to trauma every single time we bear witness to animals, right? I know I'm personally traumatized, and I'm smiling right now because there's a camera in front of me, but like these things keep me up at night. I hear pigs in gas chambers. Yeah. I close my eyes at night. I'm traumatized, and I know a lot of other people in the movement are. And now imagine the people like leading our organizations or organizing events never receive any training on how to deal with that, how to support people with that, and how to deal with the conflict resolution for the infighting and conflict that obviously comes up when a bunch of passionate yet traumatized people get together in the same space. It's really difficult to deal with that, and they never receive any training on how to deal with that. That's a huge problem. So our solution to that is we want to source and deliver free trainings to the entire animal rights movement, whether they're a part of We the Free or not. We hope that anyone can benefit from it. So whether it's conflict resolution, whether it's sustainable activism, whether it's communication skills, leadership skills, you name it, like whatever people tell us they want, we will work our socks off to find a professional version of it and deliver it free.
So this is something that I didn't even expect you to say, actually. I didn't realize that. Well, I know there's a big problem with burnout, with traumatization, and dealing with your own feelings about all of these things. So I'm really pleased that someone like you and your team are offering something to help people with that. So in your classes, you've got ways to help with these kinds of feelings. Do you also offer advice on how to be active and how to talk to people in the street?
Yeah, it's a really common question that we have is like, not everybody's got the time to be out in the street as much as they want to be. And it's how do I kind of engage in activism outside of just these main things? So the first one is online activism, which you can kind of do it whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or whether you're on your lunch break at work, is going and doing posts. And we've also built that into the kind of the data and analytics platform, which we'll talk about in a minute, I'm sure. But going online and making a post, we hope can be really impactful, can potentially reach thousands of people, especially if, like you, Rhys, if you can make really engaging content that lots of people want to watch, you can reach like thousands of people. That might even be more effective than going and standing on the street and talking to 20 people in 3 hours. So that's one thing. The next thing I'd say is like what I like to call everyday activism, which might be wearing a vegan t-shirt while you go shopping. And from my experience, that can really kind of start conversations, whether it's with the cashier at the supermarket or just a person that sees it. Oh, what does that mean?
Really?
It can be like, it can be putting stickers down on, lampposts, or, stickers that say, friends not friends not food, and things like that. So sticker in. And I'd also recommend a friend of mine, Rebecca, or on YouTube, she's called Vegan Pixie Warrior. She's done a series just about like everyday activism on her YouTube channel, which is full of amazing ideas of tiny things, such as one example that always stick with me. When she's sending out Christmas cards, like hundreds of Christmas cards at that time of year, she'll include little like vegan messages in there, or little vegan recipe tips, or little substitutions you can make to make your meals at that time of year a bit more compassionate and kind. So there's millions of ideas of tiny little things we can do, like outside of major activism events, just to spread that message. And there's that kind of, it's a thing from like advertising, I think, whereas like, what's the rule? It's like people need to see an advert like 7 times before they actually act on it.
Okay.
Have you ever heard that sort of thing? I don't know if that's true. Or it's just
I've heard of it in English teaching. You need to encounter a word 11 times to learn it. I don't know if it's
I'm sure there's variations of that theory, but my theory based on that is if we just kind of keep veganism and animal rights rhetoric in people's mind, in people's eyes, in people's ears constantly, then eventually they might think, I'm going to see what that's about, and I'm just going to go and watch this documentary or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to my experiences, not so much veganism, but other things. I'll see them again and again and again, and eventually I'll give in and I'll go, you know what, let's see what that is about. It might be like, I saw a bad example, but I saw a vegan restaurant, so I guess it is related, advertising on Facebook, and they're doing burgers at 99 baht, which is like £2.50, which is really good in Thailand. But I ignore it over and over because I'm a healthy guy, you know what I'm saying? And I saw it like 7 or 11 times, whatever the magic number is. And now I've eaten there 3 times in 2 weeks. So
that's how they get you.
That's how they get you. So going back a little bit, you talked about one of the, when you did the poll, one of the big problems people were having was they didn't know whether their activism was making a difference. And I know We the Free has something very special to help with that. So could you tell us about that?
I'm really proud of this. So thank you so much for asking about it and giving me the opportunity to speak about it. I speak about it all the time, but I'll never get bored of speaking about it because I'm really proud of this. So basically, imagine knowing exactly what actions people take towards going vegan after speaking to you about veganism, or after they've watched your video on YouTube or listened to your podcast on Spotify, or they've seen your post on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Whether they've done something about it. Whether they've watched Dominion or Game Changers or Seaspiracy. If they've signed up for a vegan challenge like Challenge 22. And even if they've given feedback like, oh, I watched that video and it inspired me to do more research or go vegan. That's what we built basically. So I'll give the example of street outreach activism.
Okay.
In fact, should I explain what street outreach typically is for your listeners or
Yeah,
viewers?
if you like, and we can come back and pick that up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So in street activism, typically teams of vegan activists go into the street and they share some kind of vegan content. They either give out like leaflets, they do chalking, they show TV screens showing footage of what happens to animals. Maybe they've got a food stall giving away some delicious vegan food, and it might be someone's first ever introduction to, trying something that's vegan and, shifting their perceptions. Maybe it's, a march or a demonstration, some kind of disruption where you go into a non-vegan space and share a vegan message. And people do this in lots of different ways. But like I said, they don't really know if they're effective. But the one thing that's common in most of those styles of protest or most of those styles of demonstrations or events is people share some kind of vegan resources, whether it's leaflets or a card that's got, links to Game Changers, Dominion, Land of Hope and Glory, these like vegan documentaries, whether it's a vegan challenge like Challenge 22, whether it's YouTube videos, books, additional resources like mentoring services, anything like that. We share some kind of vegan resources to help people on their way towards veganism. And we do something very similar, but slightly different in that we just give a card or a link that's got a link to one website, 3movies.wtf, and that's our website that we built that's got lots of vegan resources on there, most of the ones that I've just mentioned. And when people use that link, a custom link, so I've got a link just for me, Rhys, you can have one just for you. Anyone listening, you can make a custom link to that just for you. When you send somebody to that website, it basically tracks what they do anonymously. It's nothing creepy or malicious. It anonymously tracks what people do on the website with your code. And then you can log into your custom We the Free dashboard. It's called My Stats. You can log into My Stats and see how many people with your code have watched Dominion, Game Changers, Seaspiracy, signed up to a vegan challenge, all those things I mentioned earlier. You can also use that for like online activism. So rather than giving out a card with a link, you've got a custom URL that's already got the link built into it. So it's very easy for people to access. And you can then compare the statistics that you get with your different forms of activism and see which one works best for you. I suspect, Rhys, for someone that makes this really engaging video content like you might reach more people with that. You probably will reach far more people with that and inspire far more people to go to the website and watch a vegan documentary through your online activism. But you'll know for sure. You can go to some events, some street demonstrations, talk to people, and then you get like what we call an inspiration rate. It's how many cards you've given out or how many posts you've shared versus how many people have taken an action. What's a percentage of the people you spoke to that you inspired to do something towards going vegan? And you can see, like, do I need to do 10 videos on YouTube to get one person to do something about it? Or do I need to talk to, or is it just one video on YouTube potentially inspires 1,000 people to watch a documentary?
But do you ever get that opposite effect though, where somebody's talked to 100 people this week and they've got one click?
Yeah, like that might happen. And honestly, part of the truth is we don't really know for sure what's going to happen. Now, the data we've got so far is very promising, but in the long term, we might find that we're investing huge amounts of time in street activism, and the way in which we're doing it just isn't working. Now, like I say, the data so far is very promising, and I've just looked at the kind of global statistics, and I'm sorry, it would take a long time to actually go through all the data and do a full analysis, and that would probably take a team of people to do it well, not just me kind of looking in my spare time. But so far, we seem to have an inspiration rate of about 25%. So for every 4 cards somebody gives out, one person actually does something with it, which is far higher than I actually initially expected. That's really, really good, right?
Wow.
But some people might find that they're giving out, 10 cards and nobody's actually doing anything with it. Now, that might mean that person can learn from that how to be more effective, because it's not an ego thing, right? We're not just trying to show that I'm the best activist. We want to help animals. So if I look at it and my inspiration rate, my, the actions taken because of me is really low, then fortunately there's lots of training I can be a part of. I can speak to people that are doing better than me, find out what they're doing differently. Maybe some people are just kind of handing out their cards on the train because they want to reach lots of people.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not effective because you get a card on the train and you go straight in your handbag or your backpack and never to be seen again. And maybe giving them that card after a really meaningful conversation where they felt listened to and inspired is far more effective. On the other hand, we've had some people, there's a guy called James, who's one of our organizers.
Is it you?
He went to, no, it's not me.
Okay.
He's a great activist. His name's James Pierce. I don't know if he'll listen to this. He went to his first event using the MyStats dashboard a month or so ago. And he spent a lot of the time holding TV screens, so he didn't get to talk to many people. But he spoke to 6 people in the 3 hours or so he was there, and he handed out 6 cards. And when he checked MyStats the next day, 6 people had looked at the website, and 2 of them had watched Dominion. And I think those 2 that had watched Dominion said it inspired them to do more research. So that was obviously massively meaningful to him. He knew that it's worth him going out there. And if he got different results, maybe he'd be saying, can I try something different? Maybe that style of communication doesn't work for me. Maybe I need to, hold people accountable and be more aggressive with my conversation, or more stand up in defense of animals with more anger and, passion. Or maybe I need to take a more kind of coaching style of communication and guide people towards understanding that they already hold vegan values, and they just need to align their actions with those values. There's different styles of communicating around vegan advocacy.
That's amazing. Yeah, usually we're going in blind, especially on the street. We don't know what's going to happen, and so I guess you never improve, or you never change. You never think like what is working, what isn't working. You've got no idea, and you've given them this amazing, powerful tool. And I can just see the way activism works is just going to skyrocket. And we're going to get to that vegan future so much faster because of your team.
Wow, that's really high praise. I'm not sure I was ready for it, but thank you very much.
It's too much for a British person. We don't know what to do with praise.
I don't know what to do with praise, but at the very least, I hope that our movement can collectively know how to become more effective at reaching that vegan future a lot faster. And if some of the things that we're doing right now aren't working, then we'll adapt, we'll change what we're doing. And some people say to me things like, why do we need statistics? Why do we need to know that? That's an ego thing. Stop being full of yourself. But it's not an ego thing. Like, anyone listening to this podcast or this YouTube video, wherever they hear this content or see this content, I challenge them to think, do you really think for a second that the industries we're fighting against, that they don't use data and analyze it to be more effective at trying to sell us their products of death and destruction? Do you honestly think that? Or do you think that we need to become as organized, as clever at reaching those people as, as they are?
Absolutely.
Hopefully that rambling, incoherent sentence made some sense.
You're right. They've got tools. They work. They've been working for centuries, let's say. Why are we not using them? So I'm glad we finally are. Actually, I've got my own code. It's 3movies.wtf/RhysD, RHYSD. So I'm already on board, and I felt pretty inspired. I really like that you could track the individual clicks, but you could also track your individual types of activism. So I do YouTube most of the time. I could track that. Maybe I could give a different one for the podcast. Maybe if I go out on the street, I can give a different one, and I can see what's the most effective there, percentage-wise. So I don't know. I just felt inspired and so excited to get started with that. So from this video onwards, I will be using that in the description.
Wow, that's great to hear, and I'll be very interested to see like how that's working, because some people, some vegan content creators, their videos are seen primarily by other vegans, and that you don't really know how many, if that's just helping vegans to reach more people, or if you're actually reaching non-vegans. And it would be really interesting, I think, for a lot of content creators to know like what non-vegan audience are you reaching and what steps are they taking. I think that would be really interesting. I would have liked to know that when I was making YouTube videos. So
absolutely. I do worry, I know most of the audience I have is vegan already. I think last time I checked, I was about 20%. Maybe that's being really positive. 20% were not vegan, vegetarian, or just plain old meat eater. And you gotta wonder, am I putting good into the world here, or am I just telling vegans what they already know? And now I can hopefully find out.
Well, even if you're not reaching
No.
non-vegans with it, I'd like to think that your content's helping vegans to, feel a part of a community, to validate some of their beliefs, which we all know you meet kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You meet kind of criticism every step of the way as a vegan, right? You're standing up against the status quo. You get criticism, you get kind of, made fun of, you get made to feel like this big sometimes. So
Yeah.
just kind of having other people being in the public spotlight, kind of sharing that content that validates your experience is actually really powerful as well.
Absolutely agree with that. Can we talk about the community building stuff on We the Free?
Yeah, so I probably should have mentioned this sooner, actually, because it's a massive priority for We the Free. So this might, that kind of airline cliche of like, put on your own mask before helping other people. It's kind of based on that. We know that we can't do our best for the animals if we don't take care of ourselves, right? So I already mentioned that we sometimes we're faced with lots of toxic communication or ridicule. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, all my favorite people are vegans, but sometimes it can be very difficult to be a vegan, right? You can feel isolated, you can feel bullied, you can feel that people don't really understand you. And we know that we can't do our best in speaking up for animals if we don't take care of ourselves, and if we don't take care of the people around us, and if the people around us don't take care of us. So we want to build like supportive, resilient communities that are basically like worth being part of, that people want to be a part of. We take care of ourselves and take care of each other. So in order to do that, we basically there's lots of ways we do that. We've got some like really robust values that all of our community members must abide by, and that I don't need to get into them. They're kind of common sense things about like being a good human being, not treating people bad. Sometimes we make mistakes. When we do, we learn from them. We embrace feedback and criticism, and we want to be good people. Basically, that's the heart of it. But also, we do community building events. So by community building events, I mean, we get a team of our activists, our volunteers, we go to sanctuaries and help, volunteer at the sanctuaries, whether it's building a new enclosure or some fences, whether it's mucking out the animals and, caring for them, feeding them, whether it's giving a break to the exhausted people running the sanctuary that just need some respite and relaxation. And the reason why this is so important is, it gives us a chance to recharge our batteries, remember what we're actually fighting for, spend some time around those animals and put that fuel back in our fire almost. But B, it's a really good introduction to new vegans on getting involved in activism for the first time ever, right? If they, basically, the first time I ever went to an activism event, it was Cube of Truth in Sheffield, and I was terrified. It was so scary. I just think how much easier would it have been for me to take part in that if I'd known the people involved first, if I'd met them at some social or community event. So that's one example, not just sanctuaries. We might also get together and source some delicious vegan food and hand it out to people that are homeless or in need. Maybe we do like social events, like go out for a potluck or do a movie screening. Maybe we do a park cleanup or like a charity walk to raise money for a meaningful cause. So we want to, raise the profile of vegan activists in the community. We want to recharge our batteries, do some team building, work together as a team to achieve something great, support meaningful causes, and hopefully build those, those resilient, sustainable, supportive relationships in the process. So yeah, that's a massive part of what we do.
Absolutely. I know one of the biggest things about starting activism is it's scary. And, I'm online. It is scary, but it's a lot less scary than if you're going out onto the street in a cube or in a diamond, in your case. And going up against the public is terrifying. So having that what's the word there? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Camaraderie.
Having that camaraderie is incredibly useful for, quelling your nerves. You're all there to support each other. And actually, I think when you're actually on the street, it's not as scary as you thought, right?
No, it's nowhere near as scary as you thought. I know when you first get involved in activism, it feels like if I don't say the right things, then I'm not doing the animals justice. I'm allowing somebody to prove that they're right, and therefore it's okay not to be vegan. And I've let the animals down because I've told that person that they can be vegan by not having all the answers. And you feel you need to know lots of like vegan facts, like carbon sequestration of, grass-fed cattle as opposed to cattle in industrial factory farms, and, the bioavailability of protein per 100 grams.
I really fall down when we get into the nitty-gritty environmental side.
Yeah,
I get it.
But the benefit of being part of a global community like We the Free is, or even just your local community at your event, chances are you're drawing on a much bigger pool of resources by having this like great group of people that maybe someone is like a vegan nutritionist, or they're really into the environment side of things, but also we provide training on how to have those conversations. And one of the trainings that we do is called Inspiring Behavior Change, and that's literally designed to help people have conversations. And one of the basic things of that training is every single person that does that training already knows enough vegan knowledge in order to be able to have those meaningful conversations. You're not going to get caught out, because it's about the process of the conversation you have, how you go about having like genuine conversations, rather than do you have enough vegan knowledge, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're drawing on everything there. You're talking about psychology, right?
Yeah, and that's something I'm personally really interested in. So, yeah.
That's so cool, man. How often do you have these events, these trainings?
So basically, as often as people need. At the moment, we're doing them about every 4 to 6 weeks, but that's because we're only just officially launching. So up until now, we had about 7 pilot teams around the UK, and we purposely kept that small because we were wanted to get feedback, see how things work. Basically,
you want to find the problems before you go large, right?
Exactly. We wanted to build the infrastructure of this organization before going global. But now with November was officially our launch month. So through this time, we've kind of grown massively already. And we're just about to launch adverts, like we're going on YouTube videos and podcasts and doing lots of interviews and things. So we're just starting to, for the first time, actually promote We the Free. And even just in the past few weeks, we've gone from 7 teams to, I don't know, somewhere in the mid-20s. We're starting teams in Australia, America, Cuba, Jamaica, Spain, Taiwan. Yeah, lots of places, literally in the space of a few weeks. So, yeah.
Multiple languages as well, then.
Yeah. I'm really excited for that.
That is amazing.
And Canada, don't let me forget that. We've got some amazing activists in Canada.
So there are already many organizations out there, such as the SAVE movement or AV, and you're an emerging organization now. You're quite new. How are you about to fit into that?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So I know many of the people that are involved in the We the Free team have been organizers for, AV or SAVE or Earthlings Experience. I've personally taken part in lots of kinds of activism. Like I've done vigils, I've done investigations, I've helped with animal rescues, I've been to marches, I've been to vigils, lots of things. And I think that every organization is vital. Basically, the animals need every single one of us. And I've seen some people suggest like that groups like We the Free are trying to like replace AV or replace SAVE and these other organizations, and basically like trying to kill them or do harm to them. And I'd love to say that that's completely ridiculous, because, at the end of the day, we want to help animals. So if we did want to genuinely kind of do harm to some of these other organizations, all that would mean is less events with people speaking up on behalf of animals, less, reducing the pool of speciality of expertise, the pool of available resources helping animals. So no, we 100% want to kind of coexist with other organizations, not just coexist, where's possible, collaborate, work together, strategize, share our resources. I would like to offer our training, our resources, our MyStats dashboard to any other organization that wants to benefit from that. If people from Save, Earthlings, AV, any of these other organizations want to collaborate, reach out to me. You're welcome to access our training free of charge. Our MyStats dashboard, we've adapted that so that other organizations can use it. We want to give it almost as a gift to the animal rights community. So any other organizations that want to benefit from it, let us know. We'll set you up with your own like admin level access, so you can manage your teams on MyStats and access your team codes and look at the impact and filter things by different teams, and you can strategize within your own teams. And yeah, that's it. Basically, we want to help each other and collaborate. We've already done that a little bit, especially in the UK. We've collaborated with Extinction Rebellion, Viva, Animal Rebellion, some other organizations to hold like events on the street. And I'd love to see more of that. If anyone listening to this has got any ideas for collaborations, maybe you can connect me with someone that's able to make it happen, or you can make it happen yourself. Just reach out to me. You can do that by going onto our website, which I'm sure Rhys will put in the description. It's activism.wtf, or send us an email, hello@activism.wtf.
So you just talked about some of your collaborations you've already done. Could you tell us about one that really sticks out?
Yeah, so as an example, in Leeds city centre in the UK, basically we collaborated with Extinction Rebellion, XR Families, XR Leeds. There was, I think Greenpeace was there. There was Animal Rebellion was there. There was lots of different groups that basically came together to they called it Feast in the Streets, and just an entire like high street area of Leeds, which was completely taken over by like protest organizations. There was like a stand there doing speeches, there was demonstrations. Animal Rebellion, they did like what they call a mixed sit-in, where they went and occupied McDonald's and protested against McDonald's for not offering plant-based options and for not being a part of a more just food system. We were there to deliver like a strong animal rights message, as in we were talking to people about what happens to animals in farms and slaughterhouses, and talking about how amazing animals are. And it was just an all-round wonderful event. Or if I can talk about one more as well, the one that we did in Bristol in combination with Viva. And sorry, I forget the lady's name, but it was a wonderful lady that actually organized it and reached out to us and see if we want to collaborate. Basically, the aim of that was to veganize Bristol city centre. So there's been 2 of these events now. There's going to be like 3 or 4. I'm sure there'll be loads more. But basically just getting every animal rights organization that's willing to be a part of it to come out and just occupy the city centre and just talk to as many people as they can all at once. And we know for a fact that it was meaningful, because some of the people are coming from like Viva's stand and telling us about the life-changing experience they'd had. And then some people are coming from our kind of demonstration and going over to the Viva stand where they'd got delicious samples of vegan food and telling them, oh, we've come to try some vegan food because we were talking to a gentleman over there, and yeah, we want to go vegan now, so we want to come and experience this. So
wow.
It was just a really positive experience for everyone involved.
So you said that there's over 20 groups of We the Free all around the world. So how does somebody actually get involved in one of those?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Great question. And hopefully some of the people listening to this do want to get involved. So the easiest way is go to our website. On our website, there's a section called Get Involved. It's www.activism.wtf/get involved. And on there, there's a map and a list of all our existing teams. If there's one in your city or near you, you can join that. And it's got a calendar with a list of our upcoming events that you can join in. Or if there's not one in your local area, there's a section on there for how to start a team in your own area. And we'll basically jump on a call with you, answer any questions you've got, maybe ask you a few questions to find out what support you need from us. And then we'll do everything we can. We'll work our socks off to support you to start a team in your area, whether that's support with training, resources, materials. We'll help you with cards and signs and things to get going. Maybe we get a buddy from a team somewhere nearby to actually come and help you host your first event if you're feeling a bit nervous about it. We'll find out what support you need, and then we'll make it happen.
So when I've seen members of We the Free, I usually see the WTF shirts. I've also seen things like pig masks and things like that. So what's going on there? Is that like a requirement?
No. So what, actually, I should have mentioned this sooner. One of the things that's like really different about We the Free is that we understand that, just because I'm the executive director of an animal rights organization does not mean that I somehow know better than people who've potentially been an activist for 20 plus years. One of our advisors has actually been a vegan activist for 50 years and has got some great feedback for it. Yeah. In fact, I'm allowed to share with you who that is. It's actually Ronnie Lick, the gentleman who created the ALF, one of the founders of the Animal Liberation Front. Yeah, and he's one of our advisors. So that's very exciting.
But you guys are legit.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a huge honor. Very, very humbled to have Ronnie want to support us, want to give us advice. But yeah, just to bring me back to my original point, one of the differences is we know that we don't have all of the answers. We can't possibly know the best way to do every kind of activism, at least not yet before we've got any data on it. So basically we allow teams to make their own decisions. We empower teams to make their own decisions around things like what dress code they want to have. So some of the teams in Canada, for instance, they've made like pig masks that they wear, and they claim that since using them, the amount of engagement they get with the public has skyrocketed, that they've been really effective. So some other teams want to use them.
Grabs your attention, right?
Yeah. Whereas some of the teams don't really want to use a mask. They think that it's maybe some teams think it's gimmicky, or they just don't like it, or they've got better ideas. Some teams want to wear blindfolds, some want to wear bandanas. Teams want to do their own thing. So we're not here to tell people how to think and how to act. We're here to say, what do you need to be an activist in your area? What can we do to make it happen? How can we support you with that? Some teams, for instance, have been part of maybe they're volunteers or people in their community have been a part of doing an investigation or an expose of a local factory farm, and they want to use that local footage so they can show people in Norwich city centre, this was in a farm 10 miles down the road, and if you buy chicken locally, you're probably buying it from that farm, and we can support them to show that local footage rather than prescribing what everybody's got to abide by, right? Maybe it's the style of the format of the event itself. So for one easy example of that, in Leeds, the organisers of WTF Leeds were finding that they were losing a lot of people, like members of the public were looking at the footage and then walking away and saying, I can't watch that, it's too graphic. So they said, how about instead of that, we also have a table off to the side of the street with a laptop on it, and this laptop only shows non-graphic footage of animals in sanctuaries, animals that are free from a life of, a life of misery, basically. And if they see somebody saying, I can't watch that, and we're walking away, you say, hang on a second, this footage over here is non-graphic, we can still have a conversation. And a large proportion of those people are then willing to stay and have a conversation. And if you look at if you look at the photos on our social media, on our website, you can see some people being showed that footage by Colin on a laptop, one of our organizers, and you can see that they're clearly having like genuine, meaningful conversations. And then the feedback that they give is like, I couldn't. Well, in fact, forget the feedback. The conversations just kind of switch. Instead of saying, how do you think those animals in those slaughterhouses feel? Instead, it's what kind of a world do you want to create? The one in which you can't even look at that footage, where it makes you so traumatized you got to walk away, or the one where these animals get to live, a life of compassion and kindness and freedom, and they're supported with the things they need. What world do you want to create? And the feedback from that's been overwhelmingly positive. Now, that's an innovation from one of our teams, right? I didn't have that idea. It was nothing to do with me. All I did was say, okay, what do you need to make it happen? And they said, if you could chop up some sanctuary footage for us, because we're not very good at video editing, then we'll do that. So that's what we did, and it's working wonderfully. Now, I think it would have been like a big ego thing from me to say, I know better than you, and you're not allowed to do that, So
sure, yeah. So WTF is offering sort of guidelines, but also saying, take this any way you want. If you've got ideas, use them.
Yeah, as long as people are acting in accordance with our values, right? That's the only thing with We the Free that's completely non-negotiable. If somebody's, acting in a racist or homophobic, bigoted way, or something like that, then regardless of how great their ideas are, they're not welcome. But that aside, reasonable, good, kind people that want to help animals are welcome to do almost whatever they want, and we'll support them to make it happen.
And they're quite agreeable values too. You've got the standards, don't be racist, things like that. But I think you've got also, we're not a welfare movement, we're an abolition movement. That's maybe something you might get a few people disagreeing with. I agree with you, for the record. But that's an example of something that you need to make sure people know before going in, right?
Yeah. So our value on that is that, animals are sentient individuals, and so we defend them. Like, we won't accept anything less than veganism. Now, there is some research out there that says that, like, promoting a reductionist message, promoting, veganism or meatless Mondays, in some ways, in some situations, can be more effective than promoting veganism. Although, I've got a problem with a lot of those studies in that the methodological rigor just doesn't really exist, in my opinion. There's a lot of problems with it.
Okay.
But that said, there may be something to that, and I'd love to see what more research comes out of the animal rights arena in the next few years. That said, like, our values are that we believe that all animals should be free, and we will never advocate for anything less than veganism. Some people might have an issue with that, but there's plenty of other organizations people can be a part of if they feel strongly on that matter. The one that we're building is abolitionist through and through.
You mentioned, for example, that those activists needed some footage edited. And I noticed on your website, you've got some volunteer roles. So would that be a volunteer who would do that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's thanks for asking that. We're always looking for people to join our media team, basically. So whether that's a video editor, we've got a couple and they're fantastic, but basically we know that being a professional organization with like beautifully designed content we're putting out, it basically adds credibility to our very important animal rights message. Yeah. So we're always looking to put out beautifully designed, aesthetic, vegan content to reach the masses. So for that, we need, just being an activist on the street is not just being an activist on the street is an amazing thing, but at the same time, not everybody's got the time or availability to do that, or maybe there's not a team near them and they don't have time to be an organizer. But lots of people can still get involved in activism by volunteering with organizations like We the Free, especially if you've got skills like video, you're able to edit videos, you're able to be a graphic designer, maybe you've got like SEO knowledge around like, search engine optimization, maybe you are a blog post writer that you can design and write beautiful, written, thought-provoking, highly engaging vegan content that can get people thinking and plant that seed of veganism. We can share that on our post, on our social media. So we're always looking for people to get involved in our media team and help with that. And again, they can apply on that on our website. There's like a career section, and there's I say careers, the voluntary positions at the moment. We really hope that some of those positions can become paid positions in the future as our financial capability rises.
I did actually have a look at some of these postings. I was very thorough. And I noticed you've got this triangle flipped on its head, and you've got volunteers at the top and basically yourself at the bottom there. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, basically it just means that like I'm dirt and I'm nobody. No, I'm joking. It's not just me in that bottom bit as well. There's my wonderful colleague Zachary, who's a very dedicated activist. He's my assistant director, and we're a team. We do everything together. Yeah, basically in a traditional or that typical organization, you'd get this hierarchy of leadership, right, where you've got founders and directors at the top and volunteers at the bottom being told what to do and how to think. And we want to flip that on its head. We recognize that volunteers are the most important people in the movement. And rather than, like, this is again something from the animal rights survey that we did. People don't want leaders on pedestals kind of acting as some kind of like vegan gods telling everyone what to think.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be that. Like, we don't have that kind of ego trip. I don't want notoriety. In fact, being in the public spotlight, coming on this interview now, is like really like anxiety provoking for me. I don't want that kind of notoriety. What we want is to work our socks off in service to the animal rights community. So we know that volunteers are the most important people, and we act in service to them. We ask them, what do you need? And we'll work hard to try and make it happen. And that's the way we do that is by getting constant like feedback from people. So we do surveys like that we send out to all of our volunteers, asking questions like, how welcoming are events to new volunteers? How well supported do you feel by the team? Do you have any, recommendations or suggestions? Do you have any ideas for, creative new event formats or for collaborations? How's the training? Have you witnessed any behavior that we really need to know about? We ask these kind of questions and use it to guide our strategy. And maybe we can even involve people in collective decision making. If there's a particularly difficult decision to make on a certain issue, we can ask our volunteers to make a vote on it or to decide in which direction we should go. So we really want to involve the volunteers in all of that kind of stuff.
So with organizations like this, something that, let's say, anti-vegans like to point out is you make money, right? And you do, in fact, have a merch store. So how do you justify that?
I'm just a really bad person. Like, clearly I'm just clearly I'm just a piece of trash that's trying to get rich off the back of a guise of helping animals, right? No, absolutely not. Like, basically, yeah, this is my job. And I've got a responsibility to make sure every cent that we spend, every dollar, every penny, whatever baht, whatever currency you want to use, it's spent responsibly. And I know there's been kind of controversies in the animal rights movement in the past with some organizations where there've been allegations that they've not spent money in the right ways, or it's not made it to where it should have done and things like that. So we are very, very transparent about how we use our finances, and everyone that's a sponsor of We the Free, in terms of, the people that are funding what we do, the people that are helping us to make it happen, they're more than welcome to look through where every penny that we spend goes to. And just with the merch specifically, we do sell merch on the website, basically as a way of helping people to get the branded shirts to wear at events. Now, we only sell them at a very, very slight surplus above the cost price that our merch partner, what they create it for. And the reason for that surplus is for three things. Now, the first thing is a small amount of that goes towards paying like VAT, taxes, the cost of using those services, things like that, which you can't get away from that. Sure. It's a legal requirement. The second thing is some activists basically want to be a part of, want to feel like a part of the group, want to have a t-shirt, to feel like they're a part of this community, and they just can't afford one. Now, we operate under something, or we're inspired by something called the gift economy principle. And what that means is we are transparent with people around the cost of producing those t-shirts. And if anyone wants to know any information about it, we'll tell you exactly what it costs us, any fees involved in that. But our suggested donation price is slightly above that, maybe $1 or $2 ahead of that. And that money is set aside to pay for a t-shirt for any underprivileged or any activist in need that wants a t-shirt but can't afford one, and we'll do our best to give them one. Obviously, if hordes of people appear out of nowhere and we've just not got the money set aside to make that happen, sure, then we'll have to reevaluate that. But up until now, it's worked wonderfully. Like, we've just about broke even on everything. I think there's like $100 in the account or something like that that's set aside. Now, if it gets to the end of the year and there's massive amounts left in that pot, then what we'll then do is we'll put it into what we call the WTF fund, which is, that's not to pay my salary or a nice little bonus for my colleague. That's to go into our equipment fund to buy cards, signs, TVs, batteries, anything like that teams need. That'll go towards it. So nothing nefarious there.
Great. So everything is transparent. And
Completely transparent.
wow, that's amazing. That's something unheard of in any sort of organization, to be honest. So that's really,
Well,
really
it can
cool.
be a little bit. It can be a little bit scary sometimes. You know, a lot of people, perhaps if they've not been like, you know, business managers or anything like that before, it might be hard for them to have an understanding of how much money it can actually take to run an organization like this.
Yeah, you open yourself up
if,
to scrutiny a lot, right?
Completely, yeah, and that's quite a scary thing, right? We have to count every penny that we spend, so we want to make sure that we don't fall victim to that, or we don't. Well, it's not just that. It's not just about falling victim or, you know, being cancelled or anything like that. It's a huge responsibility. Having a job in animal rights is a privilege, and that privilege, you know, shouldn't be taken lightly. It's we care about helping animals, and I'm always aware that, you know, donation dollars in animal rights movements, they could also go to a sanctuary, for instance, helping animals in sanctuaries. And we all know that animal rights sanctuaries, especially for farmed animals, they're like black holes for finances, because, you know, these kind of genetically modified or, you know, selectively bred pigs, for instance, that get used for like the traditional meat brands. They grow huge and they eat so much food, and they're really expensive to keep. And the same with cows, that in the dairy industry, they only live 2 to 5 years, but naturally they might live 20 to 25 years, and it costs so much to support them. So these always need a lot of money. So I think there's a huge responsibility for anyone doing other things in the movement to make sure that it's actually providing value to the animals. And hopefully we can prove that we are with, you know, our data and analytics. So it's a scary but exciting thing.
Absolutely. Is there anything that I didn't ask you today that you wish I had?
No, I think that went through everything that I thought would be involved, and some things that I kind of hadn't really anticipated, but I'm glad you asked them. So yeah, no worries. Thank you very much.
Cool. Okay, in that case, for everybody listening and for everybody watching, go to activism.wtf right away and get involved. Or, you know, what do you want them to do? What do you want to plug?
I want them to follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I want them to go to our website and check it out. When they're on our website, sign up for our mailing list. It's the first thing you see on our website. And whenever we've got new trainings, we're starting, you know, we're looking for new voluntary positions. We want to share some exciting new feature. We'll send out an email to our mailing list to let you guys know what's going on. And please get involved. Like, I think being vegan is amazing, but I think once we know what happens to animals, once we know about the global atrocity that's happening every day, I personally believe that also gives us a responsibility to speak up and to help other people to learn what you've been fortunate enough to learn. If you ask any vegan, right, do you have any regrets? The number one thing they always say is, I regret not doing it sooner. You could help somebody have that regret for 1 year less or 5 years less by helping them see the light now. So
it's a good
please
point,
get involved.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on, James. See you later.
My pleasure. Peace.